Hello everyone. So today we are going to be going over our year-end reflections. What did we do well? What did we not do so great on? And what our curriculum hits and misses were. Now this is a collaboration hosted by myself and Davine over at Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. I'm going to link her channel and the playlist down below in the description bar, so make sure that you check it out when you are done with this video. If you happen to have your own homeschool YouTube channel and would like to participate in any of our collaborations, I will link our private homeschool collaboration Facebook group down below as well, so you can join in on all of the fun that we have coming up. That is only if you happen to have a homeschool geared YouTube channel. Now this year I had a first grader and a fifth grader. And we did Bible, language arts, math, and then we started with history and science, but those ended up being flops. If you are just now finding my channel through this collaboration, welcome. I have 5 kids. My oldest is 20, so she's already graduated. I homeschool my 10-year-old and 7-year-old, and then my 3-year-old and 5.5-month-old are just too little to start homeschooling. So at the beginning of this year, I was pregnant with my 5.5-month-old, and towards sometime in October, I ended up having a preterm labor scare and just needed to kind of take things easy. And so at that point, science and history fell on the back burner for our homeschool. And then in December, right before I had her, I had some midwife stress and drama, and then I ended up having my daughter mid-December. And then from January to May, my husband was in a bachelor's program where he graduated in May and then retired from the military in June. And we also moved. So we had so many huge life events and changes this past year that history and science were just flops for us. I'm going to make it up sometime during this summer to hopefully just, keep the learning going and keep the interest in these subjects going. But that is why we did not, I'm not going to be reviewing any curriculum and our likes and dislikes on those subjects just because we didn't use them. Now, as far as our other subjects, I'll start with Bible. So my first and fifth grader both did MASTERBOOKS More Than Words. My first grader did level 1 and my fifth grader did level 2. And while I love More Than Words, I did not like that we were doing them individually. I did not like that, she was off in one area doing hers and my son was off in one area doing his, and that we never came together and had discussions and had conversations. I think that MASTERBOOKS More Than Words is a beautiful curriculum. It's amazing and I love it so much. But I really missed that family Bible time that we have, grown to love over the years. So that is one thing that I'm going to be changing in this coming year. We are going to go back to family Bible time. We are going to be meeting and getting together in the morning and reading scripture together and diving into God's word and having conversations and listening to each other's perspectives and growing in Christ together instead of off on our own parts of the table or house or couch or wherever we may be for the day. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about it. Otherwise, if you only have like one child or, you want to do More Than Words as a group, I love More Than Words. I think it's phenomenal. After doing that, our first year homeschooling, my son wanted to get baptized. He was all in with Jesus and I was all in with that curriculum because of it. Now, I'll go over everything that I used for my second grader first, and I'll try to remember to put timestamps below, and then I'll jump into what my fifth grader did. All right, you guys, I had to go get the baby, and she's sleeping on my lap right now, so I'm going to try to not be as loud. So starting with my first grader, I have a list here so I don't forget anything that we used. So she used All About Spelling and PALS combined, and then All About Reading. And before anybody gets upset, she came to all of this with reading experience. So we've done MASTERBOOKS Foundations Phonics, we've done The Good and the Beautiful, and so when I was looking at All About Reading, she placed into All About Reading Level 1 and All About Spelling Level 1. Now, I know normally you don't do those two together at the same time, but I think that, we're the outlier. That's normally for kids who have no reading experience or very little reading experience. You start with All About Reading first, and then once you've completed Level 1, then you work in All About Spelling. But because she had the experience that she had with reading and spelling and writing already, and because she placed into both levels, I felt like it was appropriate to just use both this year. Now, as far as All About Reading went, we absolutely loved it. I loved how it was so consistent. It was 20 minutes a day. Once the 20 minutes were over, we were done. It was over with. In some of our previous curriculums, that was one of my issues, is because some days would be 5 minutes of reading, and then the next day would be 15 minutes of reading, and then the following day would be maybe 8 minutes of reading, and then the next day like 23 minutes of reading. It was just always kind of all over the place, and there was never that consistency. And so some days she would get done with her lessons rather quickly, and other days it just felt like it was dragging, and not so much for me but for her. And so that was one of the things that really drew me to All About Reading this year, was the consistency, the fact that you put a 20-minute timer, and whatever you get done in that 20 minutes is what you get done, and then you move on to the next thing. And I think that she really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that, and I loved their overall approach to learning how to read. I loved that they encompassed so many different things, like games and flashcards and reading the little books that they have, and just all of the different ways that they approach reading. She really enjoyed it, and I believe that she's a stronger reader now because of it. And then as far as PALS and All About Spelling, I really enjoyed doing PALS from IEW. I forget the exact name of it, and because the baby is sleeping on me, I don't want to get up and disturb her by getting it. So that curriculum breaks it up into 3 different parts. So part 1, you're reading Aesop's Fables. Your child is going over letters and copying them. They're doing copy work for words. They're spelling their name and things like that. And then in part 2, you're doing All About Spelling combined with their work. And then in part 3, you're starting to write sentences. And so we really liked the first part. We liked the third part. I was kind of like whatever about it. But the second part, where they incorporate All About Spelling, I wasn't too crazy about. We didn't really like All About Spelling, and not because All About Spelling is bad or terrible or anything like that. Maybe if we had been in a different season of life, I would have enjoyed it. But in this season of life, where we have a new baby and my toddler is running around being adorable but also mischievous, and then I'm helping my early reader, and then I'm also having a 5th grader that I'm helping, it was just too much parent portion, if you know what I mean. Like there was just too much reading for the instructions. I think maybe if they had had like simple bullet points, or they can kind of condensed some of the parent instructions, it would have maybe been more tolerable for me. But when you're, just mentally spent and kind of sleep deprived, I feel like for this year, All About Spelling it was a huge miss for us. It just did not align with what I needed. I think we honestly would have probably been better suited just getting some type of spelling workbook, like one of the Evan Moore workbooks for spelling, or even the spelling correct connections that I picked up for her to use next year. I think that would have probably worked out a lot better. But yeah, I think just my brain just does not want like heavy parent reading and then having to incorporate activities and whatever the item for the day is. At some point, we ended up just not even following the All About Spelling book how they intended, and I just started giving her the spelling words, and that worked beautifully for us. I would give her the word, I would sound it out, I would really enunciate how each letter that is inside the word, and then she spelled them all out great, and that's when we actually started kind of enjoying it. So we liked All About Reading, not so much All About Spelling, and I didn't mind PALS. That was good, but we probably could have just done some other more workbooks and kind of saved us some time and some money. Now, as far as Matthew C, I'll talk more about Matthew C at the end of the video, just because a lot of the feelings that I had from her book, which was the Alpha book, are the same feelings that I had about my son's EPSILON book. So I'll just kind of condense that review just so I don't have to say the same thing twice. Now, moving on to my 5th grader. For writing, he did Structure and Style Level 1A from IEW, and we absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it. I was so hesitant to use IEW. When you talk to some parents, they get all like, oh my gosh, the videos are so long, or you're going to want to cry and puke that the first year using it, or it's so challenging. And I didn't feel any of these feelings towards IEW. And it's actually funny because I had no plans to even use IEW this year, and we went to a homeschool convention, and I sat in on one of Andrew Pudawa's classes, and just the way that he was talking about writing and his approach and what it should look like, and just wanting to inspire kids in writing and how he approaches it. And I was like, yes, this is what I need. And I jumped the gun. I ditched the curriculum that I had just purchased, and we took a chance on IEW, and I cannot be more grateful for that one random act that got me into the Andrew Pudawa talk, because it was so nice to watch my son grow in his writing abilities this year, and watching him go from hating writing at the beginning of the year because our last curriculum kind of was overkill, to flourishing this year in writing and learning to love it because of the way that Andrew Pudawa has set it up. I have completely fallen head over heels in love with IEW. I think it's a wonderful curriculum. It got to the point where, don't get me wrong either. There were times during the year where, we would have issues with writing. My son would dig in his heels. He's like, I don't want to do this. And we would just have, constant talks about, why it's important and why we're doing this. So, don't get me wrong, like, it wasn't perfect, but by the end of the year, it got from me needing to help him consistently with every single assignment in the beginning and even the middle of the year, towards the very end of our homeschool year, he was writing them all by himself. He was doing it without complaining, and he was doing it with joy, and I am so grateful for that, and I cannot wait to see what IEW is like for us in this coming year. Now, the next item that we used for language arts was Fix It Grammar. That was another wonderful curriculum that we used. I will have a flip through coming out for you guys on the book that he used. I forget the exact name of it, but it's the very first Fix It Grammar book. And that one was wonderful. At the very start of each week, it gives your child grammar rules to know and to learn. And then it's only a 4-day-a-week curriculum. And so each day you get one sentence that is grammatically incorrect. And you're given a list of either things that you need to look for, to underline, or things that you need to fix. And whether it's like nouns or articles or verbs, things like that. And your child will go and fix it, and then at the bottom they will go and rewrite the sentence correctly. And that was such a wonderful curriculum. I loved how it was short and to the point. It wasn't anything that was long and drawn out. It wasn't anything that, made him frustrated and, made us both cry or anything of that nature. It was just a wonderful, straight to the point curriculum, and I absolutely loved it. And I plan on using it for years to come because it was everything that we needed, and I loved how short the lessons were. So the next one that we used was Phonetic Zoo, and this is basically like a spelling curriculum, but it's done through auditory means. So this one is also from IEW, and you get audio files. And so how it works is your child will play the first audio file, and they will read your child the words. Your child will go and spell each word on their own. And then once they get to the end of the list, they'll go and listen to a different audio file that has the same exact words, except it spells them to your child. And so your child will go and correct the words that they got incorrect on their own, and then they have to master that list twice before moving on to the next audio file. And that was so helpful. It took that off my plate, my very busy plate for this year, and it was so helpful to have something that he could do and he could correct himself in, and he could be guided without, you know, having to be in like an online class that was going to be expensive, or having to have me sit down for one more subject to help a child with and, you know, read him the words and then correct and then go over and review and things like that. So that one was really, really helpful. We're also going to be continuing it next year because it was such a wonderful curriculum and it was so easy. And it's also, if I remember correctly, it was fairly inexpensive. It wasn't anything crazy. I believe that was everything for my 5th grader. Okay, so now for Matthew C, guys. Now, I just want to preface with, it's okay that I didn't like it, even if you're ride or die for it. So I know that we all have that curriculum that just captures our heart, and it's something that just sticks in our kid's head, and it makes us love it because it makes our child learn and understand a subject that could be hard for them. So this is not in any way me throwing Matthew C under the bus. It's not me saying that it's a terrible curriculum. It's just me giving the reasons why I didn't like it, and it's okay if you like it and I don't. I just got to say that because, you know, I get it, you guys. Whenever somebody says that like they don't like Beautiful Feet books, I'm like, but don't do that, okay? I'm not being mean. I'm just saying why it didn't work for us, and that can be a selling point for others. So one of the first things, and this just because this is the most recent, this curriculum was extremely long. So now they say it's a 30 lesson book, and that's true. There are 30 lessons. So when you're looking at it, you're thinking, cool, this is going to be 30 weeks worth of work. And that is not necessarily the case. So it is a mastery program. So they do say, hey, like as you're going through it, if your child has mastered it in the first day or two, then you can skip and go to the systematic review and then continue on to the next lesson. However, not every child is going to be able to skip. Some children may not want to skip. My son didn't want to skip. He enjoys math, so he wanted to do every daily lesson. And then I think towards the middle of the year, he had forgotten that I told him, because I reminded him throughout the year that he could skip if he was mastering it, and he was talking to me about how he mastered it and could show proof in, you know, our discussion. So the way they have it designed is they have within each lesson, they have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And that ends up being 210 activities for the entire curriculum. Now, if you break that out into a 5-day-a-week homeschool plan, that ends up being 42 weeks worth of work. So that is something to consider if you're thinking about Matthew C or wanting to use it. Now, like I mentioned, my son didn't want to skip any of his lessons because he enjoys math and wanted to do them. And he was doing, I think at the start of our year, he was doing 2 pages front and back. And then as our year got a little more busy, he went down to 1 page front and back a day. And then for my daughter, since she's currently learning addition and subtraction, I didn't want her to skip any pages, even if she mastered it. I wanted her to know it really well. So I wanted her to have that constant practice. And so because of it, as we were nearing our end of the year, I realized if we continued with this curriculum, we were going to have another 3 or 4 months worth of work if we continued at the pace that we were going. And so luckily the kids ended all of their language arts curriculum early, so they were able to kind of tackle more math sheets during the day. But I didn't like it because it started getting to the point where it just felt like it was never ending. One of the next things that I didn't like about it is that this is a Common Core math, and had I known that at the start prior to purchasing, I don't think I would have purchased it. I'm old school. I can appreciate that there are multiple ways to find the solution in different problems. And I even appreciate the fact that some kids need that Common Core approach where, you know, if one way isn't working, then you can tackle it by learning another way. For me and my son, he's a lot like me when it comes to math. He picks it up pretty quickly and it's not too challenging for him. So if you have a child that's like that, you might have the same feelings. But I felt like approaching it in the Common Core way, it was just so long and drawn out and making you do all of these extra steps that you don't necessarily need to do just to get to the answer. That part was frustrating for me as a teacher, but it was also frustrating for my son because when I would teach him the easier way, like just the straightforward way to do the problem, he was like, why can't I just do it like this? And I was like, you can just do it like that. Stop, like just don't even learn the other way, just do it the easier way. And so that was what was frustrating for us. One of the things that I did not like about my daughter's alpha book, the one that goes over addition and subtraction, is that book literally only goes over addition and subtraction. There are no money skills, no time skills, no calendar skills, and I feel like these are foundational math skills that you should be learning, and they don't have that in their book. And even the place values, she was introduced to place values at the beginning of the year, and then Matthew C. didn't really touch on it. Like once we got to like the middle of the book to the end, she hasn't really gone over place values at all. And while I understand that it is a mastery approach, it should be worked into some of the reviews. At the end of the week, like lessons, I think like E, F, and G, or maybe F and G, are usually the systematic reviews. And so I feel like this math failed her because she was doing phenomenal in the good and the beautiful math. I wish I had continued with that for her this year like my plan was, because they were going over place values consistently. They were going over money and calendar and time skills as well as addition and subtraction. And so I really feel like Matthew C. did her a disservice this year because it didn't go over these things, and now I have had to purchase workbooks for her to learn these skills, to have some practice on and go over, and we're going to be having to go over this over the summertime. And so for these reasons, I did not like Matthew C. I will also mention how they do have videos, but they're kind of dry and boring, so we used them at the very start of the year, but we didn't continue with them. Hi, Mamas, are you waking? All right, you guys, so the baby woke up, so she's playing a little bit. You'll probably hear her. So the final thing that I did not like about Matthew C. that I wanted to mention is that with their curriculum, you also get a book of tests and quizzes to utilize throughout the year if you so choose to. Now, the thing that I did not like was not necessarily the tests and quizzes, but the fact that they never give you a reminder in the curriculum to utilize them. Now, some people might be like, oh, that's not a problem for me, and that's fine. It's something that might be silly to some, but as a busy homeschool mom who's juggling multiple things, a YouTube channel, a baby, a toddler who's sleep deprived, helping 2 children through homeschooling, it would have been nice to have that gentle reminder of, hey, now you can utilize one of the tests if you would like to. And I think this is especially important too for the kids who are like my 5th grader, are working independently and doing their math curriculum. It would be nice for them to have a reminder of, hey, you can take this test now, go talk to your parent or, teacher to distribute it. So that is basically all of my qualms with Matthew C. So overall, I don't feel like it was the worst mistake for my 5th grader. He enjoyed the work. He did a lot of work with fractions. He learned a lot of different skills. But for my 1st grader, I feel like this curriculum did her a huge disservice. I wish I wouldn't have ever even looked at it for her. I wish that we would have either stuck with my original plan of doing the good and the beautiful, or we would have just jumped into Apologia Math like we're doing for next year. So maybe I'm like the outlier who feels like that with Matthew C. If you've used their alpha book, but I feel like this was a mistake for this year. So over the summer, we are going to be, like I mentioned, working on those workbooks for her. I'm going to be making some different activities for her to learn math, money, and calendar skills. And but I'm not going to stress about it because she's going to get that next year. And I mean, I know that like one bad year isn't going to be make or break. I know that homeschool is a marathon and not a sprint, but it's just frustrating when you feel like you wasted an entire year on a particular curriculum. Even if there's been previous years where curriculums didn't necessarily work out for us, I never felt like this, like it was just a complete waste in a way. So I hope I didn't make anybody upset by saying that. It's just things to consider, you know. People can have good thoughts and bad thoughts on curriculum, but you know, sometimes you may not care about, like, you know, what things that they didn't like, and those are actually the exact things that you're looking for in a curriculum, and that's fine. So that is all of our curriculum hits and misses and how our year went. I would love to hear what your guys' curriculum hits and misses are. What did you love? What did you not? Comment that down below. I would love to hear it. Don't forget to check out the playlist. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. Hit that red subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. The baby says goodbye, and I will see you guys again later. Bye.